If you can perform traditional Khaleeji dance better than my bride-to-be, I'll marry you instead of her. The declaration echoed through the gold-adorned Grand Majlis of the Burj Al Salam Hotel in Dubai, causing the 350 elite guests at the engagement celebration to burst into shocked laughter. Sheikh Rashid Al Mansouri, a 44-year-old Emirati real estate mogul, had just made the most outrageous statement the assembled dignitaries had ever heard. His fiancée, Layla Elzara, a 26-year-old Lebanese socialite and former beauty queen, laughed so melodiously that her diamond earrings caught the light of the massive crystal chandelier above. Amira Hassan stood frozen in the center of the marble floor, surrounded by scattered pieces of precious baccarat crystal from the serving tray she had accidentally knocked over moments before. The 32-year-old Egyptian woman had been working as a hospitality coordinator at this 7-star hotel in downtown Dubai for 4 years, always professional, always invisible. But tonight, one clumsy moment had sent dozens of hand-blown glasses crashing onto the Italian Carrara marble, creating a sound that silenced the entire majlis. "You foolish woman!" Rashid roared, his face flushed with anger and expensive oud perfume heavy in the air around him. "Do you realize what those pieces cost? Each glass is worth more than what you earn in 3 months." Layla glided over with a cruel smile, her designer abaya rustling like silk in the wind. "Habibi Rashid, you should dismiss this woman immediately. Someone of her status has no place serving the UAE's most distinguished families." "You speak the truth, my dear," Rashid agreed, glowering at Amira with contempt. The Dubai-born businessman had inherited a real estate empire that stretched from Palm Jumeirah to Business Bay, and he felt like the Sultan of the Emirates. His property developments were legendary, his fiancée was envied by every man in the Gulf, and he felt untouchable. Watching this Egyptian woman crawling on the floor only fed his arrogance, the privilege of someone born into old Emirati money. That's when the traditional oud player in the corner began strumming Yalla Habibi, and Rashid had a malicious inspiration. "Do you know how to dance, ya bent?" Rashid asked in a mocking tone that made several guests snicker behind their gutras and shaylas. Amira looked up, confused. For 4 years, she had been practically invisible in this hotel, coordinating events for Dubai's elite without ever drawing attention to herself. "I don't understand, Sayyidi," she replied quietly in Arabic. "It's simple, Habibti," Rashid said with theatrical flair, switching back to English for the international guests. "If you can perform traditional Khaleeji dance better than my beautiful Layla, I'll marry you instead of her." The crowd erupted in laughter. The idea of an Emirati billionaire marrying an Egyptian hotel worker seemed utterly absurd. "Rashid, you're being ridiculous," Layla giggled, adjusting her golden headpiece. "This woman probably can't even walk gracefully, let alone perform our sacred dances." But Amira remained silent for a long moment, studying Rashid with intense brown eyes. There was something in her gaze that he couldn't identify. It wasn't fear. It wasn't shame. It was something much deeper, as if she were making a decision she'd been preparing for years. "I accept," Amira said firmly in perfect English. The majlis fell completely silent. Rashid blinked rapidly, certain he'd misheard. "What did you say?" "I accept your challenge," Amira repeated, her voice now strong and clear. "But I have one condition." Layla laughed like tinkling bells. "A condition? Who are you to make demands in the presence of Sheikh Rashid?" Amira ignored Layla completely and kept her eyes fixed on Rashid. "If I dance better than her, you honor your word, even if it was spoken in jest." Rashid glanced around at the assembled sheiks, ambassadors, and business tycoons. Everyone was watching now, whispering in Arabic, English, and French. He couldn't back down without losing face in front of the most powerful people in the Middle East. "Very well," he said, convinced he was about to enjoy some entertainment at this woman's expense. "But when you humiliate yourself, I don't want to hear any complaints." What Rashid couldn't possibly imagine was that behind this seemingly ordinary hotel worker lay a story that would forever change the meaning of justice in that golden majlis. If you're captivated by this story so far, hit that subscribe button because what unfolds next will leave you absolutely speechless. Amira nodded and gracefully walked to the center of the marble dance floor. Layla followed confidently, her silk kaftan flowing elegantly. After all, she had studied traditional Middle Eastern dance during her modeling career and had performed at several high-profile cultural events across the Arab world. The oud player, bewildered but obedient, began playing Ahlan wa Sahlan, a classic Khaleeji melody that everyone immediately recognized. Layla performed first, executing movements that clearly demonstrated formal training, but nothing extraordinary. She swayed gracefully and struck poses that drew appreciative murmurs from some of the male guests, her gold jewelry catching the light with every movement. When Amira's turn came, something magical happened. She closed her eyes for a moment, took a deep breath, and when the music began again, she was completely transformed. Her movements were fluid, precise, filled with profound emotion. She danced as if the ancient rhythm was woven into her very DNA. Each step was perfectly synchronized with the music. Her arms moved with mesmerizing grace, telling stories that transcended language. Her feet performed intricate patterns that seemed to honor the very sand of the desert. The entire majlis fell into stunned silence. Jaws dropped, unable to comprehend what they were witnessing. Amira wasn't just dancing, she was channeling centuries of Arabian culture through every movement. A story of heritage, struggle, and unbreakable spirit that touched the souls of even the most cynical observers. When she finished, the silence stretched for nearly 2 full minutes. Then slowly, one elderly sheikh began to clap, then another. Within moments, the entire hall erupted in thunderous applause, many guests rising to their feet in genuine reverence. Layla stood pale and clearly humiliated. Rashid remained motionless, processing what he had just witnessed. "Impossible," he muttered in Arabic. "Where did you learn to dance like that?" At that moment, Amira's phone chimed softly. She glanced at the screen, and an almost imperceptible smile crossed her lips before she answered. "Yes, Dr. Al-Sharif," she said quietly in Arabic, stepping away from the crowd. "Do you have the documents we discussed?" Rashid strained to listen but couldn't make out the conversation. When Amira ended the call, she turned to him with a completely different expression. No longer the submissive demeanor of a hotel employee. It was the look of someone holding all the cards in a high-stakes game. "Where did I learn to dance?" Amira repeated, her voice now confident and commanding. "I learned at the Zarat al-Sara Academy, the most prestigious cultural institute in Cairo. I studied there for 7 years before becoming the head choreographer for the Egyptian National Dance Company." The crowd murmured in confusion. Rashid's brow furrowed deeply. "That's a complete lie," Layla said, recovering from her shock. "If you're a professional dancer, why are you working in hospitality?" "An excellent question," Amira said, pulling something from her uniform pocket. It was a worn business card with Arabic calligraphy. "Because 9 years ago, my career was destroyed by false accusations of theft at a resort very similar to this one." Rashid felt his blood turn to ice. Something about this story struck a chord of recognition. The resort was called Golden Mirage Resort in Sharm el-Sheikh, Amira continued. "And the man who falsely accused me to protect his own nephew was a partner in a major real estate development company." Rashid's face visibly paled. Golden Mirage Resort. He knew that name intimately. "You're fabricating this," he said, but his voice had lost its earlier confidence. "Am I?" Amira smiled coldly. "Then perhaps you don't remember the Egyptian dance instructor who taught your nephew Khalil traditional Khaleeji dance for 5 months in 2015. The same instructor who was accused of stealing antique jewelry from a VIP suite when it was actually your precious, cocaine-addicted nephew who sold it to pay his drug debts." The silence in the majlis was deafening. Rashid was visibly trembling, his hands shaking slightly. I have no idea what you're referring to, he stammered, though everyone could see he was lying. You have no idea? Amira laughed softly. How peculiar. Because I have a very interesting recording of your phone conversation with the resort manager where you orchestrated planting the jewelry in my apartment. And that's when Rashid realized he wasn't dealing with a simple hotel worker. He was facing someone who had meticulously planned this confrontation. Someone who had waited 9 long years for the perfect moment to balance the scales. A recording? Rashid attempted to laugh, but it came out strained and desperate. You're bluffing. Amira reached into her other pocket and withdrew a small digital device. Shall we find out? She pressed a button, and Rashid's unmistakable voice filled the majlis through the sound system still connected to the musicians' microphones. Listen Mahmoud, we must resolve this crisis quickly. My nephew may have made an error in judgment, but I cannot allow this to stain our family's reputation. Plant the jewelry in the dance instructor's rooms. She's Egyptian and working class, no one will question the accusations. I'll transfer 75,000 dirhams to your Swiss account by morning. The entire hall gasped in collective shock. Layla covered her mouth with her jeweled hands in horror. Several guests immediately pulled out their phones and began recording. This is digitally manipulated. Rashid shouted desperately, sweat beading on his forehead despite the air conditioning. Modern technology can fabricate any audio. Technology certainly can, Amira agreed calmly. But what about these? She produced another item from her pocket, a sleek USB drive. Bank transfers, emails, text messages, 9 years of evidence I methodically collected. Oh, and there's more. Dr. Al-Sharif, a distinguished 60-year-old Emirati man in traditional dress, entered the majlis accompanied by 2 officers from Dubai Police's Economic Security Department. Dr. Al-Sharif, Amira said, smiling. Your timing is impeccable. Who is this man? Rashid asked, now visibly panicking. My legal counsel, Amira replied. And the former Attorney General of Dubai, specializing in financial crimes and corruption. Interesting how fate works, isn't it? When you destroyed my career, I needed employment. I began working in this hotel. The very hotel where you conduct your most sensitive business meetings. Dr. Al-Sharif approached with professional dignity. Sheikh Al-Mansouri, for the past 4 years, my client Amira has systematically documented your illegal activities while working at this establishment. Money laundering through shell companies, tax evasion, bribing government officials, illegal land acquisitions. This is persecution, Rashid yelled. You cannot prove anything. Actually, we can, said one of the police officers, showing his credentials. Lieutenant Colonel Al-Mahmoud, Economic Security Department. We have warrants for your arrest and asset seizure. Your accounts across 3 emirates were frozen 3 hours ago. Rashid staggered backward. My accounts? That's impossible. Amira laughed coldly. Remember that invisible hotel coordinator who managed your private events for 4 years? I recorded every conversation, photographed every document you carelessly left on tables, copied every USB drive you connected to your laptop during meetings. Furthermore, Dr. Al-Sharif continued, we discovered that Golden Mirage Resort was a front for money laundering operations. Your nephew Khalil wasn't just stealing jewelry, he was trafficking drugs to wealthy tourists using the resort as a distribution network. Layla, who had remained silent, finally exploded. Rashid, you told me you were a respectable businessman. I will not marry a criminal. She tore off her engagement ring, a 10-carat pink diamond, and hurled it onto the marble floor, where it skittered across the polished surface. Layla, wait. I can explain everything. Rashid chased after her, but she was already sweeping out of the majlis in disgust, her entourage following. There is no explanation for what you did to me, Amira said, her voice carrying through the microphone system. You destroyed my career, my reputation, my dreams. You forced me to abandon my passion and work in hospitality just to survive. All to protect your drug-trafficking nephew. Rashid turned back to her, desperate. Amira, we can negotiate. I have significant resources, I can compensate you handsomely. With what resources? Amira laughed. Your accounts are frozen. Your properties will be seized. Your real estate empire is under federal investigation. And you know what the most beautiful part is? This will be headline news in every newspaper from Dubai to Cairo by tomorrow morning. As if summoned, several journalists from major Middle Eastern news outlets entered the majlis. Apparently, Dr. Al-Sharif had contacted the media. Sheikh Al-Mansouri called a reporter from Al Arabiya. Is it true you operated money laundering schemes through luxury resorts? No comment. Rashid tried to hide behind a marble pillar. What about the false accusations against the dance instructor? Pressed a journalist from Gulf News. Camera flashes illuminated Rashid's sweaty, panicked face. The man who minutes ago had mocked a hotel worker was now being publicly humiliated, his empire crumbling in real time. Lieutenant Colonel Al-Mahmoud, Dr. Al-Sharif said, I believe we have sufficient evidence to proceed with the arrest. Sheikh Rashid Al-Mansouri, the officer announced, approaching with restraints, you are under arrest for money laundering, tax evasion, bribery, and conspiracy to obstruct justice. Rashid looked at Amira one final time. Why did you wait so long? Amira's smile was as cold as the desert night. Because revenge is a dish best served cold. And I wanted to ensure that when you fell, it would be completely and permanently. As Rashid was led away in restraints by Dubai police, Amira remained in the center of the dance floor, surrounded by the wreckage of the celebration and the cameras of international journalists. For the first time in 9 years, she felt truly liberated. What do you think Amira should do with her newfound freedom and justice? Share your thoughts in the comments below. 8 months later, Amira Hassan stood on the stage of the Dubai Opera, receiving a standing ovation that lasted over 5 minutes. She had just performed as the lead artist in Tales of the Desert, a contemporary dance production that had left the audience mesmerized. In the months following Rashid's arrest, Amira's story became international news. Dance companies, cultural institutes, and artistic directors who had seen the viral footage of her performance at the hotel began reaching out from across the Arab world. Offers poured in from Cairo to Casablanca. She's the dance instructor who was wrongfully accused and then brought down the corrupt billionaire, people whispered as she walked through the Dubai Mall. But Amira wasn't interested in celebrity. She had reclaimed something far more valuable, her dignity and her art. Dr. Al-Sharif met her in her dressing room after the performance. Rashid's final appeal was rejected today. He was sentenced to 35 years in federal prison with no possibility of early release. Amira nodded serenely. And Khalil? 20 years for drug trafficking and money laundering. The Al-Mansouri real estate empire has been completely dissolved. Assets were sold to compensate victims of their schemes. And Layla? Dr. Al-Sharif smiled. She married a film producer in Beirut. She gave an interview saying, Rashid was the worst decision I ever considered, and Amira saved me from a catastrophic future. Amira chuckled softly. Ironic. She looked down on me that night. People's perspectives change when they witness true character, Dr. Al-Sharif observed. Speaking of which, this arrived for you today. He handed her an elegant envelope with gold Arabic calligraphy. Amira opened it and her eyes filled with tears. It's from the Zarat Al-Sara Academy in Cairo, she said emotionally. They want me to return as their artistic director and head of international programs. Will you accept? Amira gazed out at the glittering Dubai skyline through her dressing room window. The city that had witnessed her humiliation now celebrated her triumph. I'm considering it carefully, but I've also received a proposal to establish my own cultural institute here in Dubai. An institute that would provide full scholarships to talented young people from modest backgrounds across the Middle East and North Africa. Transform your experience into opportunities for others who face similar challenges? Precisely. I want to teach not only dance, but resilience. I want to show these young artists that regardless of how powerful the forces trying to destroy them, if they remain patient, strategic, and determined, justice will ultimately prevail. Dr. Al-Sharif nodded approvingly. Amira, may I ask something personal? Of course. During these 9 years, did you ever feel hatred toward Rashid? Amira considered this thoughtfully. Initially, yes, consuming hatred. But over time, I realized that hatred was poisoning my soul from within. So I transformed that hatred into focus, strategy, and patience. Now, having witnessed his downfall, I actually pity him. He possessed everything, wealth, influence, opportunities, yet chose to use it all to destroy innocent people. Ultimately, he destroyed himself. As she walked through the Marina district that evening, Amira reflected on her extraordinary journey. She had sacrificed 9 years of her life, but gained something priceless, proof that her inner strength was unbreakable. Passing by the Burj Al Salam Hotel, she noticed a sign, under new management, committed to ethical excellence. Rashid had lost his ownership stake as part of the asset forfeiture. The general manager recognized her and approached respectfully. Ms. Hassan, what an honor to see you here. We would be delighted to offer you our royal suite whenever you wish. Amira smiled graciously. Thank you for your kindness, but that won't be necessary. I have my own residence now. It was true. With the civil settlement she had won from Rashid's estate, she had purchased a stunning penthouse in Dubai Marina, which she was converting into a rehearsal and teaching space. 4 months later, the Amira Hassan Cultural Institute opened its doors in a beautiful building in Al-Qua's Creative Zone. On Inauguration Day, dozens of aspiring young dancers from across the region enrolled in full scholarship programs. Amira saw in their eyes the same passion for artistic expression she had possessed at 20. During the opening ceremony, a journalist from BBC Arabic asked, Ms. Hassan, what counsel would you give to people facing similar injustices? Amira reflected carefully before responding. Never allow bitterness to consume your spirit. Transform the pain into fuel for becoming stronger and wiser. The greatest revenge isn't destroying those who wronged us. It's creating something so magnificent and meaningful that it renders their actions against us insignificant. If you could speak to Rashid today, what would you say? I would thank him. Because by attempting to break my spirit, he forced me to discover strengths I never knew I possessed. He may have stolen 9 years from my life, but he gave me a lifetime of purpose and clarity. As cameras captured her final words, Amira watched her new students practicing behind her. She had transformed her deepest defeat into the most beautiful victory imaginable. Rashid had tried to destroy Amira, but ended up destroying himself. Amira learned that true vengeance isn't about inflicting equivalent damage. It's about achieving success so profound that your enemy's efforts become meaningless. What's your perspective on Amira's approach to seeking justice? Do you think patience and strategic planning is always better than immediate confrontation? And what would you have done in her situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more incredible stories of triumph over adversity that demonstrate how truth and justice always find their way to the surface.